There's a moment in every musician's career where we look around and we start to realize, man, I feel like my music is good enough. I feel like I'm putting in the work, but I'm just hitting a wall and I don't know what the heck is going on. And we start getting frustrated. And, maybe you've realized this now, is that it takes more than the music. People have told us these beautiful lies for years. If you build it, they will come, if the music's good enough, it'll just sell itself, which just sets up this perpetual self-doubt that musicians have, where anytime they don't see any success, they just blame their music, which, look, I get it. Some people think, like, I could always have my music, it could be better. It could always be made better. But if you're working at that and you're working to make the music as good as you can possibly get it, 90% of the time, it's already good enough for the average consumer to want and enjoy it. But we get stuck in like, well, the reason I'm not successful is because of my music. I don't think that's the case. Or some people say the reason musicians aren't successful is because they're lazy. I know some lazy musicians. Don't get me wrong. But I think people mistake procrastination for laziness. I think they look around and they see musicians who have so much on their plate that they are literally paralyzed with all the things that they have to do. And they're like, look at that lazy musician. They just sit around all day and they don't really work on anything. Really what's going on is there's anxiety about all the things they have to do. And as a result, we go to the tasks that are easiest. We go to the things that don't actually move the needle, but they make us feel busy, right? Denzel Washington had this great quote where he said, don't ever confuse movement with progress, because you can run in place. And so what happens is musicians get stuck in this procrastination trap where there's so many things that we feel like we should work on, but we don't really know what to work on specifically, and so we just go to the easiest thing. And usually that easiest thing we could work on doesn't enhance our music business that much, right? Like, we could always endlessly keep tweaking our website. We could endlessly be getting better at our craft of songwriting. However, if you really want to break free from this, you have to get clear on what successful musicians have done throughout history to build this little empire, right? You see musicians out there building their little empires. How do you build yours, right? And an empire doesn't have to mean you're a millionaire. I know for a lot of people, making an extra 30 grand a year from their music would be an empire for them. So how do we get to that point? Well, we can't get to that point if we're all bogged down on, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. No. Here's what you should focus on. And what I've seen musicians, I've actually coached them one by one to do this in their music business to get results. And magically, results start happening. It's pretty crazy. So in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to focus on in order to start building your empire and going beyond the song in 2025. So the first thing that we need to look at is offers. So Dax, what do you mean by offers? What's the difference between an offer and a product? Well, look at the words for a second. A product implies a single item, like this case right here. Let's say that I had my lapel mic in this, right? This is a product. This is a singular product that's in here, right? An offer is short for offering. What's an offering? It's something that you just offer to people into the public, right? Products are usually on sale perpetually. You've got CDs for sale and then they never come off the website, right? It's just kind of always there. An offering is something where I'm like, hey, listen, I've got this really cool Brahms. People in the South are like enamored by this. I know I got messages on Instagram about it. I have this Brahms tumbler, 40 ounces, solid stainless steel by Simple Modern. It's super pink. Everyone's going to look at it. Right? But not only that, I'm going to include, if you buy it today, I'm going to include this microphone, and I'll include The War of Art, this book that I have over here. So if you buy this, do you see the difference between a product that's always on sale, and there's really no scarcity or urgency to buy this whatsoever unless someone's just infatuated with you and they're trying to collect them all like it's Pokemon, and you getting this huge bundle of things. Now, granted, these items are kind of not really related to each other. In a true offer, there would be a little bit more cohesion between the items, but I'm just grabbing things that are in my office right now that are within reach, so I don't have to turn the camera off or anything. So an offering is sort of a bundle of things, but it can go further than that because there's certain extenuating circumstances that you can play with offerings too. So for example, you can have limited time specials. So we can increase the scarcity of an offering by saying we're only going to have this offer available for a certain period of time, or we're only going to have it for a certain amount of quantity sold. We only printed 20 of these, so you can only buy 20. So you can have some scarcity elements to there, but you can also have the opposite of scarcity. To me, scarcity is like external pressure from us saying like, hey, you better get it, it's going away, where we also can create like internal pressure as well. So, we can use scarcity, but we can also use things like guarantees. So a guarantee is like a way to create risk reversal in psychology, which is a thing that we use to navigate loss aversion that people have, where it's like, well, I have a guarantee I can get my money back if I really don't like it. So you have an offering and you're like, it's scarce, so that's kind of external pressure, but then there's also like internal pressure of, and listen, if you don't like it, just tell us within 30 days, we'll give you a 100% refund and you can keep the items. I don't even really care. You can just keep them. You don't even have to send them back. People are like, whoa. Now here's the thing. Here's a cool little psychology hack that people really have a hard time with, but it's the truth. The longer you make the refund period, the higher the conversion rate. So for example, 60-day guarantees outconvert 30-day guarantees, considering if it's the offer that's the same in both situations. And then 90-day guarantees outconvert 60-day guarantees. And the reason for that is most likely people just need a bit of safety and security to know that they are making the right decision. It used to be said, if people want to buy from you, they have to know you, like you, and trust you. But one of the things I also learned from Ross Jeffries was they have to also trust their ability to make a good decision, right? And so by you having these different elements in your offer that you can't usually throw on to just a singular product with the same effectiveness, well, now we can start creating some momentum as far as creating things people want to buy, because we can cater that bundle in such a way that speaks directly to our dream fan avatar. Now, I've talked about that a lot on my channel. You can watch other videos if you want to learn more about that. But basically, a dream fan avatar, in a video game, you can make an avatar, right? And that person is kind of like a representation. So in marketing, an avatar is a character who is supposed to represent all of your customers, but in one single person, right? So we have to think about, who is that person? What's their hair color? What kind of clothes do they wear? What kind of things do they say? What's their attitude? You think about who your customer avatar is. And when you start creating offers, you can really start to cater to that person. If you're in a particular genre where your fan base is continually wearing hoodies and beanies and black jeans and black this and black that, well, then you could put together a little bundle that includes a beanie, a hoodie, a set of jeans, or even like beanie, hoodie, shoes, black shoes, right? This is my metal crowd, my emo crowd, my goth crowd. Like, you guys, we know we could sell the crap out of that if we just gave it a cool design, right? Because the culture of people that consume that kind of stuff, that's something that they buy on a regular basis anyway. If my ideal target audience is gamers, right? Think about how a gamer dresses. What are the cultural things they do? What are the items that would be of value to them that you can throw your branding on? That's really where offers can really outdo products, because a product may have a heightened sense of value for one person, but an offering can attract multiple people's interest, because you never know what exactly in the offer each group of people are like really interested in. Some people want to buy the offer, like for example, my little book, microphone, and book offer. Some people will be like, dude, I don't really care about the microphone and the book. I just really want this pink tumbler. You know what I mean? Or they may say like, it's really cool that I get the mic in the tumbler, but I've always wanted to read this book. So I pay for basically the book and I get this stuff for free. That sounds great, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, depending on what items are in there, there's going to be a different thing that attracts different fans. So offers can help increase conversions because you're appealing to more people, because it's not a static, singular thing. Now, what kind of offers can you create, you might be asking? Well, the offers that you can create, there's really only 4 that I would focus on, okay? So when you're thinking about what are the things I can focus on in my music business, and you're thinking about creating offers, there's only 4 type of offers that I want you to look at, okay? Because everything else will just start to distract you. Focus on these 4. Once you get these 4 down, you'll be making enough money that you'll have time to focus on the other ones, okay? So first one, a lead generation offer. That's fancy business talk for how do I get a fan to go from like passive social media consumer to I have their contact information, right? Because what is a lead in business? A lead is someone who will potentially buy from you. Well, that's what fans who are passive are. They're people who will potentially buy from you. So if we can get them into our email list, we have a higher likelihood now of selling them things. So you have to have some kind of offer that you're going to give people, usually for free, that they will gladly exchange their email address for this free item. That's the whole concept of a lead generation offer. To get this person into my email list, I'm going to give them something for free that they think is so valuable, but I'm not charging them anything. It's just like, hey, put in your email and you'll get this thing. And you'll make it automated so that you don't have to do anything. They just kind of fill out the form and all the automation takes care of it, right? You can set that up through MailChimp, or if you have a software like Elite 360, like what I use, there's all different ways you could do it, right? But you have to have some kind of way to get people into the list so that they're not just out there in the algorithm of social media where we can't really get to them unless it's like, if we can, we have to pay money most likely to actually get to them, and that's stupid. So when you have them on an email list, now you can just start sending out emails, right? And there's certain email softwares where while you're building your list, it's actually free. So that's a nice little benefit. So that's the first offer. What's the second offer? The second offer is your core product offer. This is something I work with musicians constantly, is figuring out what is the core product offer, right? So I like to think about this stuff where you really want to have things that cause FOMO. You want your fans to have FOMO if they're the one fan who doesn't have this item. You see what I'm saying? You want to have it set up in such a way when you're marketing this offer, your core product offer, that you're saying, I'm going to be really not elegant about it, but you will be more elegant about it in your emails. Hey, all the fans have it, but you're a fan and you don't have it. Well, either you're not a fan or you're just behind and we need to catch you up and get you this core product offer so you can join the rest of the cool kids. You know what I'm saying? That's fundamentally what the core product offer is supposed to do. So that every single fan base, or every fan that comes through your email list and is in your community, they should, most of them, have this offer. And it's sort of a identity marker if you can make it to where they're somehow identifying with your community. Like Taylor Swift calls her fans the Swifties. Justin Bieber calls them the Beliebers. Or maybe they call themselves that. I don't know if they necessarily gave them those. But like bands like Slipknot, I think this is a really weird thing to call your fan base, but they call their fan base the maggots. Okay, so it's like people will wear stuff kind of proclaiming that they're a maggot because they're a Slipknot fan. The Disturbed have the Disturbed ones. Super clever, I know. But people will still nonetheless identify with this label. And that's kind of the point. You want to integrate that sort of identity proposition in the core offer. So when they purchase it, they're not just buying something cool, they're sort of buying into you, right? And they're buying into the community and they're sort of a part of something now. That can be a very impactful way to not only increase the sale of the core offer, but if you really do your core offer right, it becomes easier to sell your other offers because there's this sort of identity shift and embracement that the fan has taken on that makes them easier to sell in the future, okay? At least while we're keeping them hot, so to speak, with our marketing, from a marketing perspective, right? Now, the third offer, what are the other offers I can sell? Well, you could sell other core product, quote-unquote, offers, like as far as price point, but I recommend in your business outlook, there is like one core product. Now, once you have that, I recommend that you have something a little bit more expensive. So let's say you have your core product offer is at $25, $50, $100. You want the premium offer to be minimum $100, $150, $200, $500, $1,000. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking, dude, I don't even have but like 10 fans. It's okay. We all start somewhere. Don't worry about that particular offer yet. Focus on the lead generation offer and the core product offer first. But for those of you that have got to that point and you're like, okay, what's the next step? Have something a little bit more expensive. Have a VIP experience for your shows. Have like a cool day in the studio type offer. Have something of high ticket value that you can do. Do you teach an instrument? Maybe that's a cool little premium thing that you can offer. There's all different kinds of things that you can do. But the whole idea is you've seen kind of the process we're going through, right? Okay, I took someone who was potentially going to buy something for me, who's like potentially a good fan. Okay, now I turn them into a fan with the core product offer. They bought the thing. Now I'm increasing how much they purchase. You can even do a premium offer where it's like an upsell of the core product offer. Like sometimes that's a great way to do it, because the whole purpose of the premium value offer is to ascend the customer. And what that means is basically get them to spend more per purchase. That's the idea. You're increasing the transactional value, the average cart value. That's the metric that we use in marketing, right? So that's the purpose of the third offer. The fourth and final offer that you want to focus on is the continuity offers. Okay? Continuity offers just mean you're making money on a recurring basis. This is the stuff you've heard of with like Patreon. You know, maybe you've just got like a fan club set up through your website. Either way, having people give you $5 a month, $10 a month, $17 a month. That's like what I charge in one of the tiers in my fan club. And we've got people that pay that every single month, 17 bucks. With the Stripe fee and everything, it ends up being like 15 bucks, which is why we priced it that way. But you get the idea. So that helps us increase the lifetime customer value, not just the customer value when they purchase one thing. How do we increase them spending money over longer periods of time? Okay. Now I want you to think about this for a second before I move on to the next one. Musicians talk a lot about multiple streams of income. And I do agree that like in your general financial life, you're going to have a lot of multiple streams of income. But you want your music or one of these avenues to be the dominant revenue streams. And so when I think of multiple streams of income, I think a lot of musicians think like sync licensing, gigs, merchandise. To me, I think offers. I think lead generation offer, core product offer. Like to me, that's what I would focus on. You know, I think that's to me just more important, thinking of it that way. But when we look at like, okay, I'm going from creating these offers to how do I make this predictable? Because it's one thing to like sit in your room and create an offer, but that doesn't mean anybody's going to buy it, right? We have to have systems to ensure that that happens. So the second part of this that we really need to go into is you have to have systems. So like content systems, for example, that's the first system I would recommend. Some kind of repeatable way to pump out content where you're not spending 8 hours on a post, right? It needs to be something where you're spending like an hour maximum on a post. I don't want anybody spending any more time than that because I want you to be nice and efficient with your content. And eventually after you do it over and over and over again, the time that it takes to complete things gets shorter and shorter as you develop a workflow, right? So make sure to kind of think about that, right? So you have to have predictable ways of creating content. Now you might be asking the question, what kind of content do I create, Dax? I've got tons of other videos that talk about that in detail. But I want you to know that the goal of the content system is to take people from cold, oh, I don't really know who this is, I'm not aware of them, to knowing who you are, liking what you're about, liking the music, okay? So that's the purpose of content systems, is to take them from the coldest of the cold and bring them to a little bit warmer, right? Then you need to have two types of marketing systems. You need to have inbound marketing systems and outbound marketing systems. Easiest way to visualize each of these, inbound marketing means they're coming to you. Outbound marketing means you are going out to them, okay? So inbound marketing, this can be integrated within your content where you create pieces of content that get them to pursue you. I'm sure you've seen tons of social media posts where it's like, hey, I want to give you guys access to this brand new song. Drop a comment of the word blank and I'll send you an exclusive link to listen to the new song. That's a way we can go get them to inbound to us, right? We create the piece of content and then they call. That's like the equivalent of that in like just general business where people would put an ad out, have people call. We're doing the same kind of thing, but we're doing it a little bit more through the lens of social media. Then outbound marketing, that's where you go to them. That's where you have a predictable system of reaching out to warm fans, people who have liked your content, commented on your content, follow you, but also people that have never heard of you, people that like artists who you're similar to and would be the best receptive to your music if they were fans, but they just don't know who you are. There's systems where you can DM these people, but by the way, I know a lot of y'all's heart and stomach sank when I said DM people. Please do not spam people. Please do not create some very clearly copy and paste message and then just copy and paste it to a bunch of people. I don't know why people still do this. Everyone can tell that it's a copy and paste thing, and they know it's not really for them, so they don't care. But if you go and you personally look at someone's account and you see something unique about them in any capacity, like they have a guitar, they have a dog, they have whatever, you can start touching on that in the opening line. So if it's completely cold, you could do things like, hey, what's going on? I see you're a fellow metal fan of this band, or you're a fellow R&B fan of this artist. What's your favorite song by them? Or what's been some good tunes you've been listening to recently? I've been looking to get some good suggestions. And you can start this where they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I like this person. Yeah, I'm really into blah, 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 blah. My favorite song right now is blah, blah, blah. And then you can open up a conversation, and there's different systems that people offer, and that I teach my clients to go through. But you're fundamentally reaching out to them, making that first communication, first contact, and then finding a way that you can actually get them into the email list, right? Get them into maybe the email list is the ultimate goal, but if you can't get them into the email list, maybe you can get them into a Facebook group or your Instagram close friends or a broadcast channel in Instagram. Finding ways to reach out to people and kind of get them into your list somehow. Get them to become a lead to potentially want to purchase something, right? And then finally, a sales system. This is the system most people ignore because they're scared of it, and they think this unfortunate belief that's totally false, which is, well, I don't really have a big enough audience. They start kind of kicking the ground. They go, I don't really have that big of an audience. Should I really sell anything? Should I work on building an audience before I work on selling something? And I would say that is absolute terrible advice to wait. If you wait to sell things, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot with a machine gun, entire round empty. I'm telling you right now, it's just, please do not do that. Why, Dax? It doesn't, well, if there's no one to buy it, what's the wrong way of looking at it? Here's the way we look at this whole situation, okay? You want to get paid as you grow, not hopefully once you grow. Two things. What happens usually is an artist will not sell anything. They say, I'm going to wait to grow to sell something. Then they don't learn the strategies to grow. Therefore, they never sell anything. And then usually that goes nowhere. Or they actually get the audience. They actually get 1 million followers or whatever it is. But then they have this crazy realization that they have 1 million followers and their bank account is still empty. Okay, well now I've got the fans though, so let me just offer something and then they'll buy it. And then no one buys it. And they're like, well, what just happened? I just got all these people, why is no one buying anything? And there's a concept I've talked about a lot on this channel, which I don't hear hardly anybody talk about, which is called the heat length. The heat length of a fan. What does that mean? Like I've been mentioning throughout this video, in marketing there's cold, warm, and hot, right? Well, when you take someone from cold to warm, if you don't have a sales system to make them hot, they will go lukewarm, right? Because they'll still know who you are, but they just won't care anymore. So they're not totally cold, but they're lukewarm. And lukewarm is almost just as bad as cold. It's like the cold version of a warm lead. I know that's a weird way of thinking about it, but it's like either way, cold and lukewarm are almost just as bad. One's a little bit better, but not by much. So if we don't keep up with people, have them, like, people who are fans of you that will buy from you will stop buying from you when you stop selling to them. That's the reality. I know people that buy things from artists almost compulsively. I need people to understand this, that like people think because they are not as big as the people they look up to, that there are not people that look up to them right now the way they look up to their heroes. And you would be totally wrong. There are people right now, if you've been out there doing it, you have any modicum of fans whatsoever, there are people that look at you the way you look at your favorite artists. And you probably go, no. Your face gets all red and you get all blushy and you go, no, they probably don't think that. Yeah, they do. They do. And you have to be okay with that. And if you don't give them ways to continually keep the heat up, have some skin in your music career, they will go lukewarm on you. And so musicians think once I grow big enough, I'll sell things. And so then they grow. Like, what does that mean, by the way? Big enough. What audience is big enough to offer them something? Like, do you have 10 people who like your stuff? Good, you've got an audience. Congratulations, sell them something. I was in an audience of, I think it was 8 people, 6 or 8 people in Fort Stockton, Texas, at the Metal House Coffee Shop, I believe it was called. We made like $600 that night. It was absolutely crazy. We were like, how can we make this much money from so little people in the crowd? It's because it didn't matter how many people were in the crowd. It mattered what kind of connection we made while we were on stage or had our moment with them, right? So whether that's digitally online or in front of people at a show, you don't sit there and go, well, there's only 5 people in the crowd. I'm not going to perform now. What? Of course you're going to perform. What if one of those 5 people becomes a fan? Why do we not look at that with our sales? We go, well, there's only 5 people. I'm not going to sell them anything. It's like, well, what if one of them buys something, right? Like, even if it's 1 out of 5 people buy something, imagine now once you get 1,000 people and 1 out of 5 people buy at 1,000. That's pretty good. And you'll be making money as you grow. Not hopefully one day, maybe if I somehow get to this arbitrary level of success that I haven't even defined. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to help anybody. That's not going to help anybody sitting there like, yeah, some imaginary number of audience until I just feel it. Until I just feel it in my soul that my audience is now therefore big enough. I can guarantee you the answer is your audience is never big enough. Like, it could always be bigger. So don't wait to start implementing sales systems until after you've eventually built this audience, but you've kept up none of the heat with them. And so now you've still just got like 500,000 or 1 million passive fans who don't really want any skin in your music career, right? But you get those diehard fans that invest in you in the beginning. They've got some skin in the game. They've got some investment in you. You know, like, I'm not going to lie, there's a little bit of like a sunken cost fallacy that works in our favor. If you think about it, if a fan invests 25, 50 bucks with you, 100 bucks with you in the early stages, they've kind of like put a piece of their own, like, I don't want to say reputation, but there's almost this thing where they don't want to now like stop supporting you because they've almost adopted this identity of someone who supports you by the way they invested in you. So like getting them to invest in you early is going to help ensure that they will continue investing in you over the long term. But if you wait, that heat and desire will fade, and then you'll offer something, they're like, I don't really care anymore. And they never had enough skin in the game to care in the first place. Even if it had been a minute, you know, like for someone who bought something, they could at least be like, oh, it's been a minute since I bought something. I'm glad they finally came out with something. I'll pick it up. But if they've never had it, like, I don't really care. I don't really listen to that much anymore. And you know what I'm saying? Like, people's heat links goes down. So the next, I won't keep harping on that. So the next thing that I would start focusing on, we've talked about offers, talked about creating systems to get these offers sold. Now we have to talk about your team, okay? Now your team could be a wide variety of people. I know I've got video trainings that go over specific team members that I think are more valuable, but I'm gonna do something different in today's video from different lists that I've done in the past, which is having talked to my clients one-on-one just over the past few years, I think a video editor is the first person that actually makes sense to get into your team as a musician. I know for a good chunk of musicians, y'all could probably do the content, but if you are continually, and when I say continually, I'm talking about like for 6 months or more, stuck without some kind of way to condense the time it takes to create content into like a nice system and workflow, and it's constantly eating 4, 5, 6, 7 hours of your day, it might be beneficial for you to just film the content and send it to a video editor who you pay like $5 a video, $10 a video. I don't even, something that makes sense for you. And maybe because you work together for long term, you can get better rates, who knows, but find someone who can edit your content, even if you have to pay them. I feel like that might be one of the best investments, just to get your time back. Another great investment, it's not as good of an investment, but it's really good, is a photographer. Now, that's not someone you have to have follow you around all the time, but just having someone that you know that can take good photos, whether it's like promotional photos that you're going to use on your website or for your offers, thumbnail images that you're going to use for YouTube and other long form platforms, whether it's photos for social media posts where you're going to do carousel images on TikTok and things like that. Photographers can just provide great stuff. You're at a gig and you want some cool shots of you at the show. Like, there's great things that can be utilized by knowing a photographer. And usually they're pretty cheap and you're not using them as much as you'd probably be using a video editor, but they can still give you some valuable stuff to enhance your image and give you some of the assets image-wise that you would need with your offers and other things, right? Because you can have that photographer take pictures of your products too. So you have nice, cool mock-ups of your offer. Plus there's other sites like MediaModifier.com that you can pay for. Here's a little tip. Media Modifier is like $19.99 a month, but if you sign up for it and then you go to unsubscribe, they'll reduce your rate to like, it's either like $9.99 or $6.99. It's a little tip. It's like SiriusXM radio. Hey, I want to cancel my SiriusXM package. Well, would you pay like a nickel a month? And you're like, sure, or whatever. Just so you know, they'll do that. And that's a great site that you can use for like t-shirt mock-ups, laptop mock-ups, computer mock-ups, all this kind of stuff to make your product and offer images look really pretty. Okay, so a photographer can help you with that. And then one of my favorite investments, I think this is actually the best investment that you can get, just because I've invested in things like this in the past and I've seen this give me the most yield for my investment, is investing in a coach or consultant. Now I know exactly what some of y'all just thought. You're like, well, yeah, of course, Dax, you would say that. You're a coach or consultant. If you think I'm saying that because I'm trying to like subtly get you to buy from me, then don't buy from me. It's okay. Really, I'm serious. Like, that's not like a ploy. If you think I'm trying to like convince you to buy from me, then it's okay. Then don't buy from me. It's okay. I respect you either way, right? So I know why people buy from me, right? They know the results I get them, and if they want it, they wanted it. So I don't try to convince anybody of anything. I've had people be like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, if you don't know, that's okay. I know people who do know. Sorry to get a little cocky. I just wanted to just like kind of quell any concern where someone's like, well, of course he would say you should invest in a coach. He's a coach. Well, here's what I'm going to say. The reason that's actually a good investment is so many musicians don't know where to start when it comes to the offers, when it comes to the systems, when it comes to all that stuff. They've already had a whole bunch of other things they thought they should work on. And then when they learn these are the things that actually matter, that could actually get the needle moving in your career, it's like some of them have a hard time letting go of doing these things because they're comfortable and they've done them before. And this stuff is new and it's uncomfortable and it requires you to like jump out of your comfort zone a little bit. So for some people, it's just very overwhelming. So one of the things that whenever I jump into any industry, any business, I love to get a coach. When I very first started playing guitar, I got coached by guys like Robert Sarzo. That's the brother for Rudy Sarzo, the bass player for Ozzy and Quiet Riot. Robert was in a band in the 80s called Hurricane. And so Robert was one of my very first guitar mentors. He helped me get my shred chops up. And then I got Clint Lowry from Seven Dust as a songwriting mentor to help me kind of like learn how to write creatively, you know. And then Mark Villolunga from Nothing More. I paid for lessons for him for a while to help me with my songwriting chops to create things that are really unique and interesting. Just trying to learn from the people who I thought were the best. And that made my songwriting 10 times better by working with them. And then in other areas of my life, when I wanted to get fit, I invested in a personal trainer. Why? Because they know better than me and I don't even know where to start, right? There's so many diets, there's so many different ways of doing it. He's like, listen, let's just pick one, the paleo diet. We're going to stick with that. Let's just stick with that, own it. And then once you lose the weight and stuff, if you want to pivot to something else eventually, you can, but you'll have lost the weight by that point and you won't care. So I got with him, lost a whole bunch of weight, great investment. Looked better than I had ever looked at that point. Then whenever I got into real estate when I was 21, I'm almost 30 now, but when I was 21 or 22, I got involved in real estate investing. What was the first thing I did? I went and spent $5,000 on a coach. Some of y'all are like, Dax, where did you get $5,000? And I was like, that was money I saved up for college. And my family, everybody, my grandma, they're like, hey, here's some money to help to get you in college, right? Like to help with a little bit. And I was like, guys, I don't think I'm going to go to college. I don't think that's the path for me. In fact, I think the path for me is to be a professional musician and, you know, anything in the music business to help musicians and be a musician. Like that's what I want to do. I want to be in this industry and it don't require a college degree. However, the same part of my brain though, you might be like, then why'd you get into real estate? I wanted to learn how money worked, and everyone talks about millionaires are mostly made in real estate and stuff like that. So I wanted to see how the game looked. But I knew that those are six-figure assets. And if I put my name on a contract and didn't know what I was doing, I could screw myself badly. So I went and got a coach. And guess what? That $5,000 investment in Phil Pustiowski, my coach, yielded $20,000 from my first 2 deals that I did with him. And from that moment, I was like, okay, listen, I've had some good results with coaches now, but now I'm a believer, right? And then once I became a coach, I started teaching musicians this, and they've had the same exact experience that I had with my coaches with me. And again, they've had it with other people too. There's other great coaches out there. I'm not the only person out there in existence. But the point is, if you get the right coach, you get someone who is a good fit for you. So like if you're a sync licensing person, you want to go into sync licensing, go talk to Greg Savage from DIY Musician, or go talk to Anthony Clint Jr. or Joshua Williams. Go talk to those guys. Those are good mentors for sync licensing. You want to talk about like content. I think Dustin from Venture is a great person to go to if you want to learn really good, like just content. That's just like the visuals and stuff. Now you want to learn about direct marketing, direct response marketing, you come to me. I'm the guy what's the words that I put in the headline that emotionally attract the ideal fan? What are the words that I put on my landing page to make fans want to buy my offer? What are the words that I put in my email to be persuasive for them to understand my origin story in a way that they care, gets them emotionally invested, and then buys the products afterwards? That's where you come to me for, right? So all of these coaches, we all have our own different skill sets, right? So you just have to find out who's the right person for you now. So when you're trying to find who's that right person for me, think about, what do you want? What do you want out of your music business? And when you figure that out, you'll be able to easily identify who's the best coach for you, because you'll understand what you want, right? But if you don't understand what you want, you're going to go from coach to coach to coach to coach, frustrated as all can be, because you haven't really identified exactly what it is you want. Some people are like, yeah, I could do this, but I could also do sync, but I could also do gigs, but I could also... It's like, listen, just pick a lane. Where do you want to grow? Do you want to now learn how to write the words that create action? Well, then I'm your guy. If you want to go figure out sync licensing, I like Greg. Greg's a chill dude. I like Greg. So, you know what I mean? Like, find out who's a good coach for you and invest in that, right? Because if you can't build a system, buy a system. That's what I did. I didn't have a real estate system to take me from finding a deal, getting the deal under contract, doing the due diligence, closing it, how's the exit strategy going to work? I didn't have a system, so I went and bought one from Phil. And then Phil taught me that and all his coaches, and they were fantastic. And then I got a system. So I bought a system that allowed me to make $20,000 when I only had to invest $5,000, right? And Phil's really cool. Like once you make $250,000 in his program, he gives you your money back, which is great. So Phil's a man. But you look at that and you're like, whoa, okay. If I don't have a system and I don't have the time to build this system right now, buy a system. That's what I did. That's what other people have done. That's what my clients have done. If you want to get results in life, I do think this is one of those things that getting a mentor, a coach, a consultant, someone who can guide you through a process that they've already been through and that's somewhere that you want to go, right? It's someone who has been where you want to be. Try to get their system. Figure out what they've got going on, right? So you get those people on your team, you got a video editor, a photographer, a coach. I feel like most independent DIY musicians, that's all you really need. Once you grow to a huge level eventually, sure, you can get a manager. Once you grow even more, sure, you can get a booking agent. And once you grow even more from that, eventually, possibly, maybe, sure, you can work with a label. But by the time you get to that point, you'll have made so much money that it won't be as big of a consideration, when people are approached by labels and are making no money. Now it's like this thing that they think they're going to sign a contract and all their magical dreams are going to come true, as opposed to the realistic truth, which is you got to build the business up for a label to even care. And so you'll actually be doing the work that matters. And you may decide even at that point, I don't know if I want the hassle. You could have done something different than Chapel Roan. She got to that point, she's like, okay, well, now that I'm big enough independently, I'm going to go to the record label and it's going to be great. Well, now she's getting roasted all the time publicly and it affects her mental health because not everybody can just brush that off. Some of y'all may not want to mess with that. You may be like, dude, I'm making like $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year or more. I don't care to be famous, 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 famous. That's kind of what I wish for most musicians, if I'm being truly honest. Like, I do envision a future. I'm more optimistic than most, but I do envision a future where musicians, now know the systems that will actually help them, and they go and they implement those things and they grow. And once they start growing, we have this class of musicians where we look back at the starving artist cliche and we chuckle, right? But right now we have too many people living the starving artist cliche as opposed to, getting past that. And so that's kind of the whole purpose of this channel, these videos, and me working with my clients is to help increase that business knowledge, help get those results so that they can look back and go, man, I can't believe I used to think like that. I can't believe musicians still think like this. And they look at the future and how much brighter it looks. And I'm just blessed to be in an industry where I've gotten some great results for myself. But what I'm more proud of than anything I've ever done for myself is things I'm able to do for other musicians, because that to me is how we change the business. I don't personally think that we're going to get the revolution we all want if Spotify goes under. I think the revolution we all really want comes from the direct response knowledge that will actually liberate musicians and get them to create business systems that predict reliably how many new fans they're going to get this month, how many of those new fans are going to turn into buyers, how many of those buyers are going to buy the ascended products that increase the average cart value, and how many of those people are going to subscribe to pay you on a monthly recurring basis. I think that's the stuff that really liberates musicians when it comes down to brass tacks. So if you got some value out of this video, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. We've also got a free group that you can join where we're talking about all the tactical stuff that I've been mentioning today. It's totally free. Click the link in the description for that. And also, if you want to set up a one-on-one call to figure out if it'd be a good idea to be one of my clients and to work together, there's also a link in the description for that. But before I go, I want to mention something really cool that only the people at the end get to know because you stuck it out to the very end. I am hosting a 3-day workshop, August 1st through August 3rd in Norman, Oklahoma. That's where OU is. And we're going to be hosting this 3-day workshop where from day 1 to day 3, it's all going to be about positioning ourselves for the AI economy that's ahead of us. It's going to be about creating these sales systems, all the offer systems that I talked about today, implementing pretty much all the nitty-gritty details, the nuts and bolts of all the systems that I've talked about today. It's a whole weekend where we're going to cover that. And so if you want to attend that, there will also be a link in the description for that. It's coming around the corner. It's only about 5 weeks away. So get your tickets now. Get on that roster if you're willing around in the area to come to Oklahoma to increase your knowledge about the music business. It's going to be a transformative weekend, and I really look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, I'll see you on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.